I'm Master Instructor Eddie Camden. This is Master Instructor Stephen Broman. And now we're going to be talking about one of the most important, if not the most important move in Gracie Jiu Jitsu, the rear naked choke. Mata leon means kill the lion. And that pretty much describes a choke. Imagine a lion with a big neck or a big strong guy. Once we have this move on, the beauty of it is it has nothing to do with pain compliance. It has nothing to do with how tough the guy is. It has nothing to do with how many fights the guy's been in. Once this move is on, blood stops going to the brain through the carotid arteries. That blood carries oxygen. When that oxygen stops going to the brain, 2, 3, 4 seconds, the opponent is asleep. It ends a fight. It stops an aggressive attacker. Now, contrast this with choking the trachea or choking the air passage towards the lungs. The problem here is if you think about, there's guys who can hold their breath underwater for 30 seconds or a minute or 2 minutes. So just choking the air to the lungs would not be a very effective way to finish a fight. When we choke the blood, the oxygen going to the brain through the carotid arteries, we're going to make a very effective way to stop an attacker. This is also a very humane way of calming down an aggressor. If you had someone that maybe you knew who had been drinking and the alcohol made them stupid, by the way, alcohol is not on the Gracie diet, but the alcohol made them stupid and you wanted to calm them down, but you didn't want to hurt your friend. Here's a very effective way to do that. So, my first reference point with this move, and by the way, we're going to do this from the top of the mountain, but this is the easiest way to learn it. He's sitting his butt to his heels. I got one leg up. My first reference point, I want to start the choke from behind his ear. So, I'm going to attack with my right hand behind his right ear. I slide my arm down so that my bicep is positioning itself right against his carotid artery on this side. My second reference point is I want to bring my arm all the way through until my elbow is directly underneath his chin. So that's going to be my second reference point. My arm goes through, my elbow goes underneath his chin. So now I've got the arm close to the ear, the elbow is underneath his chin. My third reference point is what we call the gradual increase of pressure. I want to start to put pressure on his whole neck by putting my forearm against his left carotid artery. So the pressure is increasing on my third reference point. Now, it looks like from here that I could just grab my hand and choke him. And if I was a big, strong guy and he was much smaller, then I could probably do that. But that's not the most efficient way to do the move, especially against a bigger person. So now our next reference point, I want to take 5 digits and I'm going to add some leverage to the move by grabbing my own bicep with 5 digits. My next reference point is I want to lock the move in by bringing my hand behind the round part of his head, putting it on his neck, and ducking my head forward. This is going to keep him, if I just put my hand here, he'll pull it off the front of the head. So this is going to keep him from doing that. I lock my hand in with my head. My next reference point is creating pressure by driving my elbows together. So my elbows start to drive forward to create pressure. Now always, I've created that pressure, and we use pressure before leverage. So I've created the pressure by driving my elbows together. Then the final point of the move, I create leverage by pulling my shoulder blades together in the back and expanding my chest. So again, the arm starting from behind his neck, the elbow is positioned underneath his chin as we're starting to tighten up the forearm and the bicep against his neck. Grab your bicep with your other hand with 5 digits. This hand comes behind his head and wraps with 5 digits behind his neck. You lean your head forward to trap your own hand. And then the key to this move is your elbows go together to create pressure on his neck. From here, this alone won't do it unless you're a very strong guy. So always we have pressure, then we add leverage. We add leverage by using the strong parts of the body, our back muscles, expanding our chest and pulling our shoulder blades together in the back. Now we've seen how to do the rear naked choke on its own, and now Master Steve's going to do it from the general position that we use to move from, the top of the mounted position. So as I was saying before, he starts to punch here, and generally what the guy's going to do is cover his face or start to turn to his back. The first key reference point, his legs are relaxed. That allows me to turn. So the first key reference point is he's in a relaxed position. As I start to turn, he lets me turn. The next key reference point, he opens the knee in the direction I'm turning and puts his hands on the mat. The next key reference point, the direction I'm rolling, that's where he's going to start the choke from. The key reference point here, his hand starts behind my neck, The next key reference point is his elbows underneath my chin. The next key reference point, he grabs his bicep with 5 digits. After that, the next key reference point is for him to put his hand all the way to my neck, cupping and ducking his head forward. The next key reference point is for his elbows to go together. And the final key reference point is that he pulls his shoulder blades together in the back to make me tap. Okay, now we're going to look at some of the common mistakes when applying this choke. The first one is passing the arm in front of the opponent's face. And what happens there is it's just easy for the guy to bring his arm up and block. So I always want to start from behind his ear and bring my arm down and around. The next common mistake would be putting the bicep too far away from this carotid artery. And it won't create pressure on his neck. So I want to make sure that seals in nice and tight. The next common mistake, and probably the most common, is tracheing the guy, not putting the elbow underneath his chin. And then my forearm is going to go on his trachea. It's not the most effective way and efficient way to choke someone. So I want to make sure that elbow is underneath his chin. The next common mistake is not creating gradual pressure, just putting the arm around the neck and having it loose here. Notice there's no pressure on him at all. I want to, as I go around, start to tighten up the choke. You can see his face is already turning red here. The next common mistake would be grabbing the top of the head. The problem here is he can pull the arm off the head and start to defend. The next common mistake would be, once the arm is behind here, not putting the head forward. Again, if he reaches back and grabs, he can pull the arm off his head. So to prevent that, my head ducks forward. And the final common mistake, and again another very common one, is just driving your elbows together. I won't have the leverage to finish the move by driving my elbows together. I want to drive them together and then add leverage by pulling my shoulder blades together in the back. Now we've seen how to do the rear naked choke on its own, and now Master Steve's going to do it from the general position that we use to move from, the top of the mounted position. So as I was saying before, he starts to punch here, and generally what the guy's going to do is cover his face or start to turn to his back. The first key reference point, his legs are relaxed. That allows me to turn. So the first key reference point is he's in a relaxed position. As I start to turn, he lets me turn. The next key reference point, he opens the knee in the direction I'm turning and puts his hands on the mat. The next key reference point, the direction I'm rolling, that's where he's going to start the choke from. The key reference point here, his hand starts behind my neck. The next key reference point is his elbows underneath my chin. The next key reference point, he grabs his bicep with 5 digits. After that, the next key reference point is for him to put his hand all the way to my neck, cupping and ducking his head forward. The next key reference point is for his elbows to go together. And the final key reference point is that he pulls his shoulder blades together in the back to make me tap.